how do we now go and actually make this real for ourselves? So this is a framework, it's a process. Walk us through maybe some, if you even want high level, let's go a little more tactical. What does this actually look like to implement? And why, I'm also curious within that, why did you choose to go the corporate route? This work that you've customized is for, right, the corporate client. So let's, if you want to talk a little bit about that.
I wanted to do corporate is because I have suffered in my corporate world, and I wanted people to know that there's a different way of working together. You don't have to be stuck. You don't have to accept bad relationships. You don't have to fire people. You don't have to accept that the only way to solve a problem is to eliminate somebody from the team or change the person. You don't have to do that. The second thing I think is I really wanted to make a difference in people's lives, to let them know they're not alone. It's hard. It's hard to be in that place when you close the door and you feel like nothing can work. You feel like you can look at the paper, you say like, I used to do this. I don't know, why is it not working for me? And I wanted people to know the reason why it's not working is not because they are incompetent or they don't know how to do their job. The reason why it's not working is because they feel disconnected. Nothing is working when we feel disconnected. Nothing is creating when we feel disconnected. And the world falls apart for us when we feel disconnected. I wanted them to know. I wanted people to know. And I want people to know now that it's not because it's your fault or you bad guy or the other person the bad guy. I wanted you to know it's the negative cycle that is creating the terrible, terrible disconnections. We are bonding mammals. We are designed to be together and to attach to and need each other. So when we can recognize we depend on each other and we need each other to be emotionally connected, our life becomes so much easier. I wanted to do this in corporate because of the struggle that I had. But to tell you the truth, Stephanie, I never related that what happens at home, at work, it's really the same thing. It's just in a different environment, but relationship is really the key. How we address our need for connection, how we address our emotional distresses, everything is driven through emotions and through our need of the connection. So once we learn how to do that, then it becomes really easy for us to know the process. So right now, it's a piece of cake to have a disconnection. We're not afraid of disconnection. The process consists of 3 stages. And I'm going to be talking about those 3 stages if there's a disconnection going on, okay? So the first stage is we call de-escalate the cycle, where we create safety for people to recognize that it's a negative cycle that you got into. Nobody's at fault. We need to just slow things down, the emotions, so we can recognize and validate each person's experience. Because every single person in an argument has its valid emotion and their feelings. We do create alliance, safety, teach people about attachment, how they impact each other, how they need each other. And that is why actually they scare the hell out of each other, because they need each other so much. And that there's nobody a bad guy. The cycle is the bad guy. The reframing of the cycle and how much they care about each other is really helps people to slow things down and recognize, oh, okay, whew, that is a big relief. If I'm not the bad guy, I get it. Because, you know, in an argument, everybody's blaming the other person, because if I'm alone and I'm distressed, it's not my fault, it's your fault, right? That is the music that people get into. Once we start to share and help people to recognize how they dance together, how the music that is happening, and that the music is, oh my gosh, yeah, that is the music that's playing. That is my worst fear, is I'm not being valued. Or that is my worst fear, that the other person doesn't care about me. And when they make that explicit, now everything becomes so much safer. because each person can see their vulnerability in the other person. The second stage is called restructuring the cycle. We start to teach people how to be accessible, responsive, and engaged. The key attachment question that our brain constantly asks is, are you there for me? A-R-E. Are you accessible to me? Are you accessible to your own emotions, where you can slow things down, articulate what is happening with you, and create safety for me to do the same thing for you? Are you accessible to me? Are you responsive to me? Are you responsive to my emotions? Even though you're feeling stressed, can you understand how it hurt me? And can I understand you? And the third one is, are you engaged with me, emotionally engaged with me? Can you still be engaged with me even though you don't agree to my point, you don't like what I'm saying, but still, can you still be on the dance floor with me, dancing together? Or are you leaving the dance floor and leaving me alone? So the second stage, we teach through the process how to be accessible, responsive, and engaged. We do this through bonding conversations, through enactments, through the process of validating people's emotions. Once we do that, we are so much more clear on our message, what we need. It's not that I need you to fix my window or my cupboard. I need you to tell me that I'm important to you. Because I get lost in the moments when you work so much and I start to feel alone. I start to get the message that I'm not important to you. Third stage is integration stage, integrating the language, the responses, the articulation, being ARE in your daily lives. Anything that you do with your clients, everything that you do in your life, in your family, community, creating that safe place for yourself and safe place for others.
You did such a fabulous job of keeping that simple enough for us to even understand that it's 3 steps: the de-escalation, restructure, and integration.
Yes.
What I think is so magnificent with the way that the flow of this too, in how we even get to integration, is this process of even identifying for ourselves, to recognize our own emotions. Because all of us have been there where we're, and use the word trigger, right? There's some form of a trigger. It could be micro, just like it could be macro. What I've already learned through your process is how powerful it is to have awareness of how I'm reacting in those moments, right? You talk about, and we're not going to get into it now, but this is usually like the withdrawer or the pursuer, right? Like that we get into recognizing, who am I when I'm triggered? Because for most of us, it's not until a week later when we're so detached, right, from that heightened sense of emotion that we can finally, if at all, reflect back and learn and implement.
What you're saying is so true. This process helps you to be in that moment and to be able to put kind of brakes on and say, whoa, I know it's going to be okay. Right? It's going to be okay. We're going to be reconnected. I'm a pursuer by nature. I'm like, let's fix it now. And Jack like, whoa, my gosh, you have too nice at me.
And it's so transformational. Like I really hope people can grasp just how big of an impact this will have when you go through this process, not just for yourself, but for everyone around you. Because when you take control of your own emotions in that intense and magnificent of a way, I should say, everything around you will change. All those disconnections, all those impossible relationships, it's like they're going to do a 180 and you're going to go, who's that person? They were so rude or mean, right? The finger blaming and all of it. It's like, they're this angel now. And it's so easy. And it's just, it's so crazy. If I can just use that, I'm like trying to find the really cool simile or like good metaphors, but I'm just out at this point. But it really is just such a beautiful process to go through and to watch and reflect back and go, wow, what used to be so hard and we would just bump heads all the time, whether professionally or personally, and to take that ownership on ourselves and show up in that new way. It's just, it's been such a blessing to know you and experience your process and see it in action with people I personally know, professional relationships. So just so many kudos to you for bringing this to the world, Lola.
Thank you, Stephanie. You were saying it, I remember I had a meeting today with Amin Sadehi. He's my colleague, and we work together. We're writing a book together. He said that just this phrase, "I hear you," it does miracles for people. He's like, I never thought that I could just sit there while people expressing, and I just say, "I hear you. I hear you. That's really important to you. I hear you." And you could see, like you just said, transformational. That's exactly what he said. He's like, and the person just calms down and the transformation happens. Change happens. You're so right. I love that you see it, Stephanie. I love it.
I feel it, Lola. It's not just seeing it. It's the emotions to it too.